The crystal wine glass shattered against the marble floor. Rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the penthouse, casting shadows that danced across the room like ghosts. Keisha's hands trembled around the mop handle as she pressed herself against the hallway wall, her heart thundering so loud she was certain they would hear it through the mahogany door. Just one night, please. The voice that commanded empires, that made grown men weep, that signed death warrants without hesitation, now broke like a child's whisper. Keisha held her breath. I'm begging you. Through the crack in the door, she saw him. Minjun, the man whose name alone could empty a room or fill a cemetery. On his knees, before his wife. The woman didn't even turn around. She stood at the window, her silk robe reflecting the city lights, her champagne glass steady in her hand. Get up, she said, her voice colder than the rain outside. You're embarrassing yourself. I need an heir. Our families. Your family needs an heir. I married your power, not your bloodline. Keisha's stomach dropped. She should leave. She should run. But her feet wouldn't move. Minjun rose slowly, his jaw tight. What are you saying? His wife finally turned, and the smile on her face was poison. I'm saying your name dies with you, and there's nothing you can do about it. The maid's breath caught as the full weight of those words settled in the air like a death sentence. She had heard too much, and everything was about to change. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now because what you're about to hear will leave you speechless. This is a story about power, betrayal, and a decision that broke every rule. Let's dive in. The next words from Minjun's wife cut deeper than any blade he'd ever wielded in the streets. I've been taking the pills for 3 years, she said, her voice casual, almost amused. Every single day? Did you really think I wanted to ruin this body for your legacy? Keisha's hand flew to her mouth. Minjun stood frozen, his broad shoulders rigid beneath his tailored suit. The man who never showed weakness, who never flinched, looked like he'd been shot. You what? Oh, don't look so shocked. You got your trophy wife. I got access to your empire. Fair trade, wouldn't you say? She took another sip of champagne. But a baby? That was never part of the deal. Our marriage contract means nothing if I simply can't conceive. How tragic. Her laugh was hollow. And in 2 more years, when I've secured my position in your organization, when half your men answer to me instead of you, I'll leave. With enough money to buy my own empire. You won't get away with this. Won't I? You can't touch me. My family's protection is ironclad. Hurt me, and you start a war you can't win. She set down her glass with a delicate clink. Your bloodline ends with you, Minjun. And watching you realize it has been the most entertaining part of this marriage. She walked past him without another glance, her heels clicking against the marble. Your name dies with you. The door slammed shut. Keisha finally moved, her legs shaking as she backed away from the hallway. She made it 3 steps before her shoulder hit a vase on the side table. It wobbled. She lunged for it, caught it just before it fell, but the water inside sloshed over the rim and splashed onto the floor. The office door opened. Minjun stood in the doorway, his eyes finding her immediately. His face was a mask again, cold and unreadable, but his eyes looked like they'd seen the end of everything. How long have you been standing there? Keisha's mouth went dry. I just got here, sir. I'm cleaning the hallway. I didn't. Don't lie to me. The words weren't loud, but they hit like a physical force. She'd seen what happened to people who lied to him. She'd scrubbed the evidence out of carpets. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. I heard everything. Silence stretched between them like a chasm. Then he nodded once. Come inside. Sir, Now. Her legs moved on instinct, carrying her into the office she'd cleaned 100 times, but never truly entered. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like a judge's gavel. Minjun walked to the window, his back to her. The rain continued its assault on the glass. You'll tell no one what you heard tonight. I won't. I swear I'm not finished. He turned to face her, and something in his expression made her throat tighten. It wasn't anger. It was something worse. Defeat. You've worked here for 2 years. You've been loyal. Discreet. I've noticed. Keisha didn't know what to say to that. I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to think very carefully before you answer. He moved closer, and she fought the urge to step back. Do you have family that depends on you? The question caught her off guard. My grandmother. She's sick. The medical bills. How much do you owe? Sir. How much? $60,000. But I don't understand why. I'll pay it. All of it. Tonight. He pulled out his phone. I'll also set up a trust fund. $500,000. Untouchable. Yours. Keisha's heart stopped. What? In exchange for your silence about what you heard tonight. And he paused, his jaw working like the next words were being dragged out of him with chains. And something else. The air in the room changed. Sir, I don't. I need an heir. His voice was flat, businesslike, but his hands clenched at his sides. My wife has made her position clear. My options are limited. I'm asking you to consider something that goes against every rule, every boundary. Keisha's mind went blank. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. I'm your mate. You can't just, this is insane. I know. For the first time, his mask cracked, and she saw the desperation underneath. I know what I'm asking. I know how it sounds. But I'm running out of time, and I'm running out of options. The families are watching. If I don't produce an heir, everything I've built will be torn apart by vultures. Find someone else. Anyone else. There are 1,000 women who would. I need someone I can trust. Someone who understands discretion. Someone who won't use a child as leverage against me. His eyes locked onto hers. Someone who needs something badly enough to take this risk. The number echoed in her head. $500,000. Her grandmother's bills paid. No more double shifts. No more fear of eviction. No more drowning. I can't, she whispered. This is wrong. I'm not asking you to love me. I'm not asking for anything beyond one night. And if nothing comes of it, you still get the money. All of it. For your silence alone. And if something does come of it, then I protect you. You and the child. For life. My resources become yours. My enemies never touch you. You'll want for nothing. Your wife will kill me. My wife is leaving. One way or another. She's already gone. His voice hardened. She made her choice. Now I'm making mine. Keisha's hands shook. This was a line she couldn't uncross. A decision that would change everything. But 60,000 in debt. Her grandmother's breathing machine that kept breaking down. The eviction notice she'd hidden in her purse. I need time to think. You have 24 hours. He pulled out a business card, wrote something on the back. This is my private number. No one else has it. Call me with your answer. He held it out to her. She took it. The cardstock felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. If you're still watching, drop a comment below and tell me, what would you do in Keisha's position? Would you take the deal? And don't forget to hit that like button because this story is about to get even crazier. The next 3 days were torture. Keisha moved through the penthouse like a ghost, cleaning rooms on autopilot while her mind spun in endless circles. The card burned in her pocket. She'd pull it out a dozen times a day, stare at the number, then shove it back. Minjun didn't speak to her, didn't even look at her, but she felt his presence everywhere, a constant weight pressing down on her shoulders. His wife, however, noticed everything. Keisha looked up from the kitchen floor she'd been scrubbing. Mrs. Park stood in the doorway, perfectly made up despite the early hour, her eyes sharp and cold. Yes, ma'am. You've been distracted lately. Jumpy. Is there a problem? No, ma'am. Just tired. Then perhaps you should find a job that doesn't exhaust you so much. She stepped closer, her heels clicking with predatory precision. You're here to clean, not to think, not to listen, not to exist beyond your function. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am. I wonder if you do. Mrs. Park crouched down, bringing her face level with Keisha's. I've seen the way you move around this house. Like you're afraid of shadows. What exactly are you afraid of? Keisha kept her eyes down. Nothing, ma'am. Liar. The word was a hiss. Let me make something very clear to you. Everything in this house belongs to me. The furniture, the art, the staff, you. She grabbed Keisha's chin, forcing eye contact. If you ever forget your place, if you ever touch something that's mine, I will bury you so deep no one will remember your name. Are we clear? Crystal clear, ma'am. Mrs. Park released her with a shove that sent Keisha's hand splashing into the bucket of dirty water. Good. Now finish this floor. It's filthy. She left with the same cruel grace she did everything. Keisha sat there, her hand dripping, her chest tight with rage and humiliation. The card in her pocket felt heavier than ever. That night, her grandmother's breathing machine stopped working. The hospital called at 2 in the morning. Equipment failure. They'd stabilized her, but she needed a new machine. Cost $8,000. Insurance wouldn't cover it. Keisha sat in the hospital waiting room, her head in her hands, and felt the last of her options evaporate. She pulled out the card, stared at the number, made the call. He answered on the first ring. Yes, it's me. Silence. Then, your answer? I need the money from my grandmother first. Before anything else. I need to know she's safe. Give me the hospital name and your grandmother's information. It'll be handled within the hour. How do I know you'll? Because I keep my word. Always. It's the only thing that matters in my world. Something in his voice made her believe him. She gave him the information. 45 minutes later, a hospital administrator found her in the waiting room. Her grandmother's bills had been paid in full. A new breathing machine was being installed. All future medical expenses were covered under an anonymous benefactor's care. Keisha's phone buzzed. Asterisk, it's done. Your grandmother is safe. The rest of your answer? Asterisk. Her fingers trembled as she typed. Yes. The response came immediately. Asterisk, tomorrow night. 10 p.m. I'll send a car. Asterisk. She stared at the message until her vision blurred. What had she just agreed to? The black car arrived exactly at 10. No driver spoke to her. No questions asked. She was brought to a building she didn't recognize, escorted to a penthouse suite that wasn't Minjun's home. Neutral territory. He was waiting by the window, dressed simply in black pants and a white shirt. No suit. No armor. He looked almost human. You came. I gave my word. So did I. He gestured to the table, where papers were laid out. Everything is here. The payment for your grandmother. The trust fund. Legal protections. All ironclad. Sign these, and regardless of what happens tonight, you're taken care of. She approached slowly, scanning the documents. It was real. All of it. Why are you doing this? Because I need an heir more than I need pride. He picked up a pen, held it out to her. And because you deserve to know you're protected before anything else happens. She took the pen, signed her name. The scratching sound felt like sealing a pact with the devil himself. Minjun countersigned, then gathered the papers. These go to my lawyer tonight. By morning, everything is official. And now, he finally looked at her, really looked at her, and she saw something unexpected in his eyes. Not desire, not conquest, sadness. Now I ask you one more time if you're certain. Because after this, there's no going back. For either of us. Keisha thought of her grandmother's smile, of the eviction notice she could burn, of every humiliation Mrs. Park had put her through. I'm certain. He nodded slowly. Then stay. Or go. The choice is yours. But know that I'm grateful, regardless of what you choose. She didn't leave. What happened next remained between them, unspoken, and when dawn broke through the windows, everything had changed. He drove her home himself. No driver. No witnesses. Take a week off, he said as she got out of the car. Paid. Rest. When you come back, nothing changes in how we interact. This never happened. And if there's a result, you tell me immediately. No one else. Just me. She nodded and walked into her building, her legs shaking. Behind her, the car disappeared into the morning traffic. Keisha spent the next week in a haze, barely sleeping, barely eating. She visited her grandmother, who looked better than she had in years, and felt the guilt crash over her in waves. What had she done? But when her grandmother took her hand and said, "Something good happened to you, baby. I can see it in your eyes." Keisha almost broke down. Just got a bonus at work, Grandma. Well, you deserve it. You work so hard. If only she knew the truth. When Keisha returned to work, the atmosphere had shifted. Minjun barely acknowledged her. Just a brief nod when they passed in the hallway. Professional. Distant. As if that night had never happened. Mrs. Park, however, was a different story. The humiliations increased. Spilled wine that Keisha had to clean while guests watched. Public scoldings for microscopic imperfections. Threats of termination delivered with a smile. You're replaceable, Mrs. Park whispered during a dinner party, shoving a tray of appetizers into Keisha's hands. Never forget that. But something had shifted. When Mrs. Park tried to dock her pay for a broken plate, one she deliberately knocked over, the accountant said it had been overridden. When she attempted to change Keisha's schedule to worse hours, it mysteriously reverted by morning. When she screamed at Keisha in front of guests for forgetting to chill the champagne properly, 2 security guards suddenly appeared and escorted Mrs. Park out of her own party. The guards never explained why, but Keisha knew. He was protecting her from the shadows. One evening, as Keisha was leaving through the service entrance, she noticed a man watching her from across the street. He wore a dark suit and didn't bother hiding his surveillance. When she hesitated, her phone buzzed. Asterisk, don't worry about the man across the street. He works for me. You're safe. Asterisk. She looked up at the penthouse windows, knowing he was watching. A small gesture. A raised hand. He didn't wave back, but his silhouette moved slightly. Acknowledgement. Something warm bloomed in her chest, and she hated herself for it. 6 weeks later, Keisha woke up feeling wrong. Nauseous. Dizzy. Her period was late. Very late. No. 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 She bought 3 pregnancy tests on her day off. Took them in the bathroom of a coffee shop because she couldn't risk taking them home, couldn't risk anyone finding them. All 3 were positive. She stared at the pink lines until they blurred, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead like an angry wasp. Someone knocked on the bathroom door. "Just a minute," she called out, her voice cracking. This wasn't supposed to happen. The chances were supposed to be low. One night wasn't supposed to. Her phone buzzed. A message from the private number. Asterisk, we need to talk. Tonight. Same place. Asterisk. He knew. Somehow he knew. The same car picked her up. The same penthouse suite. But this time, Min-jun looked different. Tense. Coiled like a spring about to break. He paced the floor like a caged animal, and when he finally stopped, his eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "Tell me." Keisha's hands twisted together. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air like a grenade. For a long moment, he didn't move, didn't breathe. Then his shoulders sagged, and he sat down heavily on the couch, his head in his hands. His fingers dug into his scalp, and she heard him take a shaky breath. "Are you sure? 3 tests. All positive. I'm going to the doctor tomorrow to confirm, but... And how do you feel?" Terrified. Her voice cracked. "I don't know what to do. I don't know how to. This wasn't supposed to be real. It was supposed to be a transaction. Money for silence. That's it. And now there's a life, and I don't know. I know." He looked up at her, and the expression on his face was complicated beyond words. Relief, fear, wonder, guilt, all of it swirling in his dark eyes. "I know this isn't what you wanted. What I wanted doesn't matter anymore. It matters to me." He stood, moved closer. "Listen to me carefully. From this moment on, you are under my protection. Completely. My personal security team will be assigned to you. You'll move out of your apartment into a safe house. Everything you need will be provided. Your wife will never touch you. I swear it. She'll figure it out. Eventually. She's not stupid. Let her." His voice turned to ice. "She made her choice. She wanted to watch my bloodline die. Instead, she's going to watch it continue. Through you." Keisha's hands moved to her stomach instinctively. There was nothing to feel yet, but somehow the gesture felt right. What if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough? I'm nobody. I clean toilets and scrub floors. I don't know how to raise a child in your world. You're stronger than you know." He placed an envelope in her hands. Inside is everything you need. New apartment information, security details, medical care, and a phone, private line. You call me anytime, day or night, for anything. She opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a key, a new phone, and a bank statement. The number made her knees weak. $1 million. This is too much. It's not enough. He moved to the window, his back to her. The city lights cast his profile in sharp relief. "You're carrying my heir. My legacy. There is no amount of money that reflects what that means. I'm scared." "Good. Fear will keep you alert. Careful." He turned back to her. "But you're not alone in this. Not anymore." Something in his voice made her chest tighten. This wasn't just about an heir anymore. Something had shifted. For both of them. "Min-jun, you should start calling me by my name. In private, at least. That feels too personal. We're having a child together. I think we've crossed the personal threshold." The absurdity of it hit her, and she laughed. A broken, slightly hysterical sound. "This is insane. All of it. 2 months ago, I was worried about making rent. Now I'm pregnant with a mafia boss's baby, and there's $1 million in my bank account. Life changes fast in my world. Too fast." He moved closer, and before she could stop herself, she leaned into him. His arms came around her, careful and gentle, and for a moment she let herself feel safe. "We'll figure this out," he murmured into her hair. Together. The next months were strange. Keisha moved into a luxury apartment in a building with security that rivaled Fort Knox. Guards watched her floor. A personal doctor made house calls twice a week. Everything she needed appeared before she even knew she needed it. Groceries, prenatal vitamins, books about pregnancy, a rocking chair that looked like it cost more than her old car. And Min-jun. He visited. Not often, too risky, but regularly. Checking on her. Bringing food because he'd noticed she wasn't eating enough. Making sure she had everything. He never touched her again. Never crossed that line. But he'd sit in her living room, and they'd talk. About everything. About nothing. She learned he loved old movies, especially film noir. That he'd wanted to be an architect before his father died and the family business consumed him. That he'd never wanted this life. But once you were in, there was no getting out. He learned she'd been a pre-med student before her parents died in a car accident, and the debt became unbearable. That she wrote poetry in secret, filling notebooks with words she'd never show anyone. That she'd never stop dreaming of a different life. Slowly, impossibly, something grew between them that neither had planned for. Something real. Something dangerous. At 5 months, her belly started to show. She stopped going to the penthouse entirely. Too risky. Minjun arranged for her resignation with a generous severance package that wouldn't raise suspicions. Mrs. Park didn't even notice she was gone. She'd already hired a new maid to humiliate. But at 6 months, everything fell apart. Minjun arrived at her apartment unannounced one evening, his face grim. Blood on his shirt cuff. A cut above his eyebrow that looked fresh. "We have a problem." Keisha struggled to stand from the couch, her hand on her swollen belly. The baby kicked, as if sensing the tension. "What happened? Are you hurt?" "It's nothing, but we need to talk." He moved to the window, checked the street below. "My wife knows." The world tilted. "How?" "One of my men." She got to him. Paid him more than I was paying him to keep silent. Minjun's jaw was tight, with barely controlled rage. "She's known for weeks. She's been planning something." "What kind of something?" "The kind that ends with you and the baby disappearing." Ice flooded Keisha's veins. "She wouldn't." "She would. She will." He grabbed her shoulders gently, his eyes desperate. "She's already tried once. That's why I'm bleeding. They ambushed me on my way here. 3 men. Professional. If I'd been anyone else, I'd be dead." "Oh my God. Pack a bag. Now. Just essentials. We're leaving." "Where?" "Somewhere she can't reach you. I have a safe house upstate. Remote. Off the grid." Minjun. "Now, Keisha. We don't have time." She'd never heard her name from his lips with such urgency. It sounded like a prayer and a curse all at once. She packed, throwing clothes and toiletries into a bag with shaking hands. The baby kicked again, harder this time, and she whispered, "I know, baby. I know. Mama's scared too." They made it to the parking garage before the lights went out. The emergency system should have kicked in immediately. It didn't. Footsteps echoed in the darkness. Too many footsteps. Minjun pushed her behind him, his hand moving to the gun at his back. "Stay close. Don't make a sound." The emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in hellish red. Mrs. Park stood by the elevator, flanked by 6 men. All armed. All professional. Her smile was poison and satisfaction. "Hello, husband. And oh my, you must be the help. Though you've certainly grown since I last saw you." Keisha's blood ran cold. "This doesn't concern you anymore," Minjun said, his voice deadly calm. "The divorce papers were filed this morning. You're done." "Oh, I'm far from done." Mrs. Park took a step closer, her heels clicking on the concrete. "Did you really think I'd let you humiliate me like this? Let you replace me with that? A maid carrying your bastard? Careful. Or what? You'll kill me? Start a war with my family." She laughed, and the sound echoed off the walls. "You're trapped, Minjun. You always have been. The great Mafia boss, brought low by his own desperate need for an heir. It's almost poetic. Walk away. Now. While you still can." "I don't think so." She nodded to her men. "Kill him. Take the girl. The baby is leverage. We'll use it to control what's left of his empire." "You're making a mistake." "The only mistake I made was not doing this sooner." One of her men raised a gun. Everything happened at once. Minjun moved faster than Keisha thought possible, putting himself between her and the weapon. His own gun came up, and the crack of gunfire echoed through the garage like thunder. The man dropped, a red bloom spreading across his chest. The other 5 drew their weapons. "Get behind the car," Minjun barked. "Now." Keisha dove behind a Mercedes as bullets sparked off concrete. She pressed herself against the cold floor, her hands over her belly, and prayed to every god she could think of. The baby kicked frantically, and she whispered, "Please, please, please." More gunfire. Shouting. The screech of tires. Then silence. Terrible, deafening silence. "Keisha." She looked up. Minjun stood over her, breathing hard, a cut on his cheek bleeding freely. Behind him, Mrs. Park's men were either down or fleeing. Blood pooled on the concrete. Mrs. Park herself was gone. "Are you hurt?" Keisha shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "The baby. We're getting you to a hospital. Right now." He helped her up, and they ran. His car was riddled with bullet holes, but still functional. They drove through red lights, Minjun on the phone barking orders in Korean, while Keisha held her belly and prayed the baby was okay. The hospital confirmed what Keisha already knew in her bones. The baby was fine. Strong heartbeat. Active. Apparently unfazed by the chaos. She sat in the private room Minjun had secured, her hands on her belly, feeling the small kicks that reminded her everything was real, that they'd survived. Minjun paced like a caged animal, his phone pressed to his ear, barking orders in Korean. She caught words here and there. Find her. Lock it down. No witnesses. When he finally hung up, he looked exhausted. Older somehow. It's done. My wife is on a plane to Seoul. If she ever sets foot in this country again, she'll be arrested. I made sure of it. How? Evidence I've been collecting for 3 years. Embezzlement. Money laundering. Connections to rival families. Enough to put her away for life. He sat down beside the hospital bed, and his hand found hers. She chose her exit. Prison or exile. She chose exile. Is it really over? The threat from her? Yes. He squeezed her hand. But we have new problems. What kind of problems? The families. They know about the baby now. Some see it as legitimate. Others see it as a scandal that weakens my position. His thumb traced circles on her palm. There will be challenges. Threats. People who want to use you or the child as leverage. So what do? We adapt. We protect each other. He met her eyes, and what she saw there made her heart stutter. And we decide what kind of future we want. What do you mean? I mean, he took a deep breath. This started as a transaction, a business arrangement. But somewhere along the way, it became something else. For me, at least. Keisha's heart thundered. Minjun, you don't have to say anything. I know this is complicated. I know I've put you in an impossible position. But I need you to know that when I look at you, when I think about this child, I don't see a means to an end anymore. I see. What? A future I never thought I'd have. A real one. With someone who sees me as more than just the monster I've become. The baby kicked hard, as if agreeing. Keisha laughed through her tears. This is insane. All of it. Completely. I was supposed to just be your maid. You were never just anything. His hand moved to her belly, hesitant. May I? She nodded. His palm pressed against her stomach, and the baby kicked directly into his hand. His eyes widened with wonder. He's strong. Or she. Either way. Strong. He looked at her with something that looked dangerously close to love. Like their mother. I don't know what we are, she whispered. But I know I don't want to do this alone. You'll never have to. I swear it. He kissed her forehead, gentle and reverent. And for the first time in months, Keisha felt something like hope bloom in her chest. Maybe this impossible situation could become something beautiful. Maybe. 3 months later, in a private hospital room surrounded by more security than most world leaders, Keisha gave birth to a baby boy. He had his father's eyes and his mother's fighter spirit, announcing his arrival with a scream that could wake the dead. The nurses laughed, said they'd never heard lungs so strong on a newborn. Minjun held his son with shaking hands, tears streaming down his face, and Keisha saw the moment his entire world realigned around this tiny, perfect life. What do we name him? She asked, exhausted but elated. Something strong. Something that means new beginning. How about James? For my father. James Park. Minjun tested the name, then smiled. The first real smile she'd ever seen from him. Perfect. He handed the baby back to her, and as she held her son, Keisha realized her entire life had led to this moment. Every struggle, every humiliation, every impossible choice, all of it had brought her here. To this child, to this man, to this impossible, dangerous, beautiful future. But outside the hospital window, the city sprawled like a battlefield waiting for war. And in the shadows, enemies waited. Because a Mafia heir had been born, and everyone wanted a piece of him. Minjun's phone buzzed. He checked it, and his expression darkened immediately. What is it? Keisha asked, holding James closer. A message. From the Council of Families. What do they want? To meet James. To verify his legitimacy. To decide if they'll accept him as my heir. He looked at her, and she saw the fear he tried to hide. And to decide if they'll accept you as part of this world. When? 3 months. They're giving us 3 months to prepare. And if they don't accept us? Then we fight. For him. For us. For everything. He moved to sit beside her on the hospital bed, his arm around her shoulders. But I won't let anyone hurt either of you. I'd burn this entire city down first. Keisha looked down at her son, sleeping peacefully in her arms, unaware of the storm gathering around him. His tiny fingers curled around her thumb, and she felt a surge of protective love so fierce it scared her. She'd thought the hard part was over. She'd been wrong. This was just the beginning. Now, if you've made it this far, I need you to do something for me. Smash that subscribe button because part 2 is coming and you do not want to miss what happens when Keisha faces the Council of Families. Drop a comment below telling me what you think will happen next. Will they accept James as the heir? Will Keisha survive the politics of the Mafia world? And hit that like button to let me know you want part 2 ASAP. Because this story, we're just getting started. The days after James's birth were deceptively peaceful. Min-jun moved them to a compound outside the city. Not a house, a fortress. High walls, armed guards, security systems that would make the Pentagon jealous. Keisha spent her days in a beautiful prison, learning to be a mother while Min-jun trained her in other skills. You need to know how to protect yourself, he said one afternoon while James napped. He handed her a gun. And him. I don't want to touch that. I don't care what you want. You need to be able to defend our son if something happens to me. The weight of the weapon in her hand felt wrong. Evil. But she learned. She learned to shoot. To fight. To recognize threats. To trust no one outside their small circle. She learned the politics of the families. Who hated whom. Which alliances were real and which were theater. Where the real power lay. And she learned that being Min-jun's woman made her a target. The first threat came in the form of a bouquet of flowers. Beautiful black roses, delivered to the gate with no card. The guards caught the poison coating the thorns before Keisha could touch them. The second threat was a nanny who applied for a job. Background check revealed she worked for a rival family. The third was a doctor who offered to do James's checkup. Min-jun's people found a syringe in his bag. Each threat escalated. Each one brought them closer to the inevitable confrontation. They're testing us, Min-jun said one night as they watched James sleep. Seeing if we're strong enough to protect him. Are we? We have to be. Outside the hospital, a black car idled in the parking lot. Inside, a figure watched through binoculars as Min-jun held his son for the first time. A phone call was made. The child has been born. A boy. Healthy. Strong. On the other end of the line, someone laughed. Cold and calculating. Perfect. Let them think they're safe. Let them bond. Let them believe they've won. And then we take everything. The child. The empire. All of it. The call ended. The car drove away. And in that hospital room, holding his son and the woman who'd given him everything, Min-jun felt the weight of the future pressing down like a blade to his throat. Promise me something, Keisha whispered. Anything. Promise me that no matter what happens, we protect him. Above everything else. Even if it means sacrificing everything we've built. I promise. He wrapped his arms around both of them. No matter what it costs. But promises, in their world, were written in blood. And blood always demanded payment. 2 months passed in tense preparation. Min-jun brought in tutors to teach Keisha the language of his world. Not just Korean, though she learned that too, but the coded language of respect and power. How to bow. When to speak. When silence said more than words ever could. She hated every minute of it. But she did it for James. The day before the council meeting, Min-jun found her in the nursery, holding their sleeping son. Are you ready? No, but I'll do it anyway. He moved behind her, his hands on her shoulders. They're going to try to intimidate you. To make you feel small. Unworthy. I am unworthy. By their standards. Their standards are garbage. You're the mother of my son. That makes you more powerful than half the people in that room. Will they see it that way? Some will. Others. He trailed off. Others will want to use it against us. What do I do if they reject us? Then we leave. All of us. We disappear. I have money hidden in places no one knows about. We can start over. New names. New lives. You'd give up everything? For you? For him. He turned her to face him. Without hesitation. The truth in his eyes stole her breath. I love you, he said simply. I didn't plan to. I didn't want to. But I do. Keisha's eyes filled with tears. This is the worst possible time to say that. It's the only time. Because tomorrow, everything changes. She kissed him then, deep and desperate, with their son between them and the future stretching out like an abyss. When they pulled apart, she whispered, I love you too. God help me, I do. The council met at dawn. 8 families. 15 members. All seated in a semicircle, their faces carved from stone. Keisha entered the room holding James, with Min-jun at her side. She wore traditional Korean dress, Min-jun's choice, and every eye tracked her movement. You bring shame, someone said in Korean. I bring the future, Min-jun replied. My son, my heir. A son born from a maid. From a woman not of our world. A son born from love. From choice. From a woman strong enough to survive my world. That remains to be seen. The oldest member, a man named Kim, leaned forward. Let me see the child. Minjun tensed, but Keisha moved forward. She would not show fear. Not here. Not now. She placed James in the old man's arms. The room held its breath. Kim studied James with eyes that had seen 70 years of violence and power. The baby stared back, unflinching, and then smiled. Kim's expression softened. He has his father's eyes. And his mother's courage. He handed James back. I accept him. One by one, others nodded. But 3 families remained silent. This child will inherit a throne built on blood, someone said finally. But his mother's blood is not of our world. How can we trust her? Keisha spoke for the first time, her voice clear. You can't. Trust is earned, not given. But I will spend every day earning it. For my son. Pretty words. True words. She met their gazes without flinching. I didn't ask for this life. But I will fight for it. For him. Anyone who threatens my son will learn exactly how fierce a mother's love can be. Silence. Then Kim laughed. She is fire. I like her.